Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for being with us. It's Friday afternoon after lunch, just before the weekend, so we'll have to do our very best to keep you informed, but we're ready for it. Okay, what's on the agenda for today? Present in the room are the Shift, IMS Luxembourg, and Accenture, and this is a bit of a strange mix, maybe. There's also a fourth logo, the Belgian Alliance for Climate Action, and we'll explain to you what that is. On the agenda, we have introduction of the speakers and our organizations. I'll talk to you a bit more about our project, the Belgian Alliance for Climate Action. Accenture will explain its role in this, and then there will be the floor to IMS Luxembourg, followed by a Q&A. Who am I? My name is Bart Corijn. I work at Shift, which is the National Network Organization on Sustainability in Belgium. And rather than giving you sort of a mission statement, I'll give you a brief overview of our members. Now, this is just a snapshot of our members. We are a network of about 450 organizations. And you may not recognize all the logos, but there are some big corporates in there. There's universities in there. We have nonprofits as members, even some administrations like the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. We have some cities that are members with us. So just to illustrate that we are essentially a multi-actor network, and the theme that unites us is sustainability, or in more general, the Sustainable Development Goals. We have a tagline, and it's, as you can read it here, it says, connect, commit, change. So what we do is we connect our members. We have purely networking events like our New Year's reception or our annual meeting, but this is only part of our operation. What we ask for from our members is a commitment towards the Sustainable Development Goals. That's the middle pillar. And I work on what we call our change program. Basically, you could say these are projects that we try to do together with and for our members, where the Shift acts as a how would I say, stakeholder management. We bring parties together around the table on specific topics. And the Belgian Alliance for Climate Action, which I will talk about later, is a nice example of what we have done in this context. As I said, we work under the umbrella, or we promote the umbrella of the Sustainable Development Goals. And obviously, it's not, we are only a small team of 10 people, so we can't work on all 17 of those. These are the areas that we have been focusing on in 2020. Energy and climate, if I may add. We also work on redefining value. A few of my colleagues are busy with the theme of work and inclusion, and biodiversity is also on our agenda. This is the focus of our program for this year. A short introduction to who we are, and I now give the floor to Sophie from IMS Luxembourg.
Thank you, Bart. Good afternoon, everybody. Yes, indeed, my name is Sophia Berg. I'm Deputy Director at IMS Luxembourg. Next, please, Bart. IMS Luxembourg is actually, you could say, a sister to the Shift in the way that we are as well actually a network of organizations. We are Luxembourg leading network for CSR. And as the Shift is, we are as a national representative for CSR Europe in Luxembourg. We have today, actually we recently got new members. So actually the total numbers of our members are actually 170 today, both from private and public sectors. as well, very actually small organizations to much bigger organizations. We represent more or less 16% of the workforce in Luxembourg. And we have been in place alive and kicking since more or less 10 years. And we are independent, non-political, and a recognized association of public utility. Next part, please. We do work with or along four main pillars, you could say. In our name, the first letter I stands for inspiring. So really one of our first floor activities is around inspiration, inspiring. So you could say raise awareness, inform. This we do through many activities. Among others, we have our own magazine. We do organize yearly a forum, which is really the Luxembourg Sustainability Forum. We do work a lot through animations. We animate, of course, our networks through several projects. We have dedicated clubs, purchasing, a club for purchasing managers, for example, a club for sustainability managers. We do, the third area is we provide our expertise through very concrete project, which is a link to the fourth pillar, or it's then propose concrete solutions. So we work through concrete projects, we publish studies, report, this would be it very in a few words. So the last slide, thank you, Bart, is just to show you the three main areas we work with, which is, of course, that you may recognize from really the kind of official CSR/Sustainable Development Agenda. So the so-called planet, people, prosperity pillars. And here you saw a selection of our projects within each of the pillar. The one we are going to talk to more specifically today is within the planet pillar. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Silke Lepé. I'm an environment lead at Accenture, Belgium and Luxembourg, and this means that I'm in fact responsible for maintaining our environment management system, the ISO 14001 certification, and driving environment-related actions at our local offices. And I'm looking forward to starting the journey with the Belgian Alliance for Climate Action.
Also, good afternoon from my part. My name is Magali Frankel, a colleague of Silke for Accenture in Belgium and Luxembourg. Actually, I have been leading the corporate social responsibility initiatives and agenda for the past 6 years for Belgium and Luxembourg, but also working closely with the business to see how can we indeed have a bigger impact, have an impact through our business, through our services, with our clients, with our employees, with our partners. So being an active member of the shift since the early days, we have been actually a partner in different projects and in different collective solutions like this one on climate action. If you can go to the next slide, Bart. And so for us, Accenture, being a large organization, more than 500,000 people in more than 120 countries, we truly believe that we can, together with our people, with our clients, and with this broader ecosystem, make this change happen, and to really deliver on this promise of combining the technology with human ingenuity. So in that sense, we have been looking closely on the Sustainable Development Agenda, on which SDGs can we have a real impact, a bigger impact? Where can we have, as Accenture, a bigger impact? And where do we need to work with other stakeholders in society to achieve this sustainability journey? So if we go to the next slide, you will see kind of a mapping that we did for last CSR report on actually on which SDGs will we commit, will we have additional ambitions, additional objectives, so to be able also to track and to monitor the progress towards it. So we have, it was already in 2019 announced that we would be with Accenture a gender balanced organization, meaning 50-50 male-female employees. Today we are already achieving a 44% of female talent in organization, and the objective is by 2025 to achieve this full gender balance. Also, decent work for all has been a very important one, on which one we also have been working together with the shift in Belgium to see how can we actually help to bridge the gap between unemployed people in society and then the labor market. So it was the objective to help 3 million people in the world to have the right skills to find a job or to build the business by 2020. And we were proud that in 2019, we could already report a progress of 3.6 million people worldwide. We are here to talk about the climate agenda. And with Accenture, we have since end 2018, correct me if I'm wrong, Silke, approved science-based targets. Silke will talk a bit more about it later when we will explain also a bit how did we get there, how do we implement this locally, and what do this mean, partnering with more stakeholders to achieve actually this carbon neutral objective. I would also propose, because we don't see you, so this is, I think, for us as a speaker, the less pleasant part. It would have been nice to see all of you and to be able to interact with you, and especially on a Friday afternoon before a long weekend. So I would, we all of us would really appreciate if we can use also the chat that we can have here during the session. So what I would propose already to have this first interaction and to engage you already in this conversation, it would be great if you could just ping in which country you are located, so that we have a bit of an idea if you are coming from all the different corners of Europe, or if we have other Belgium-based organizations in this session. So if you could maybe ping your country, and if feel free also to add the name of your organization, or to indicate if it's a private company or a non-profit or a public organization. So at least we have a bit of an idea which type of profiles we have in these sessions and who is here today. Also, it would be nice to understand what do you expect from this? Is this something that you are quite familiar with or not? So also feel free to add in the chat your expectations towards this session, so we can make sure that we get the most out of it. And then also feel free to ask a question if you would have some during the presentation, so we can also make sure that we can follow on this. And we will have a presentation of with Bart, Sophie, and with Silke of maximum 1 hour, so that we make sure that we have the time also to interact with you and to be able to ask your questions throughout the session. So I'm handing back over to you, Bart, to explain what is in the name this BACA.
Thank you, Magali. And now I'm getting a bit worried, and in fact extremely worried, because we have one reply in the chat window from Ingrid in Belgium. I hope Ingrid is not the only person who is who's listening in. So please, by all means, make yourself known, and it would help us. But anyway, Ingrid, if you are the only one, then this is a private information session for you, and we're just as happy to do this for you. Maybe our technical assistant, who is not visible, could inform us how many people in fact are present.
But we should be with around 30 people in this virtual room. So
okay. So some are very shy to make themselves known.
Still very shy, indeed. Even without camera. So feel free to use a chat, please, to connect with us. I think it makes it nicer for everyone to have also this interaction.
All right. So someone I know at least made herself public in the chat window. Thank you, Noor. Okay, I'll talk a bit about a project we have set up in Belgium. Now, the idea of this session is not really to just explain you something, but what we would like to basically offer you is the concept of what we have developed in Belgium. We think this is easily or can easily be replicated across Europe. And this is what we would try to explain to you. If you think this is an interesting project, we consider our materials open source, and please feel free, as Sophie will explain that Luxembourg is contemplating, please feel free to do as we did and copy our concept. Okay, a bit of history first. So I'll be talking about the Belgian Alliance for Climate Action, but how did this thing come live? And actually, I think it was a year and a half ago, there was a large media campaign in Belgium, which was called Sign for My Future. It was basically a campaign directed at citizens, where citizens were requested to sign a sort of a document, and that document asked from the political leaders to come forward with a climate law, to invest in climate solutions, and to make sure that there was a dedicated council, so to say, looking at these. The hopes for this media campaign were very high, but in the end, not much materialized. Let's be honest about that. We got a lot of media attention, but nowhere near the number of signatures we had hoped for. And then Belgium struggled with the formation of its government. So, well, we weren't really too happy with the results. And then this campaign ended with, I'll go back to my previous slide. It doesn't work. Anyway, it doesn't matter. At the end of this campaign, I had a talk with one of the initiators, and he's the CEO of a large newspaper publishing company in Belgium. And he said, look, Bart, we didn't achieve what we wanted to achieve. Okay, politicians, they don't have an easy life either, but I still want to move ahead. As a company, I want to prove that we can also take action. And we started building upon that suggestion. And these were the three reasons that drove us to construct this project. The realization that apart from politicians, organizations also need to take more ambitious climate action. The realization that it's only by working together that we can achieve a net zero economy. And also the realization that climate action based on science is the most effective way to guarantee the required effect. Because you may be taking certain climate actions, but probably for your organization, they might not be the most efficient ones, or they might even be totally wrong ones. So on these three assumptions, we started working and built a platform, a community. And essentially, what we have done is this. We have built a community for all types of organizations. And if I say we, this is the Shift and WWF who are heading this platform. We are gracefully supported by Accenture, but Magali and Silke will explain that later. And The essence of this community is that we build upon the Science-Based Targets initiative and try to lead companies, or not only companies, towards this initiative and help them develop ambitious climate targets. So, yeah, in a few words, it's a platform for Belgian organizations being serious about their climate ambitions and choosing the path towards science-based targets. I'll explain in a moment. Some of you may know, or some of you are probably experts in science-based targets, but this is the sort of foundation on which we work. The Science-Based Targets initiative is what drives us. And with this platform, we try to exchange information as much as possible on this topic and inspire others and lead a lot more companies towards the Science-Based Targets initiative. Who are we aiming for? And that's quite important, because we didn't want to build a community with only actors that didn't know anything about science-based targets. And at the same time, we didn't want a community with actors that know everything about science-based targets. So it's basically a mix of organizations that we have assembled, those that have already defined science-based targets, those that are in the process of doing so, and those that are not really sure, but would like to move in that direction and are looking for guidance and inspiration. So it's a mix of newcomers and experienced parties. I've mentioned it a few times, but for those of you that may not be familiar with this initiative, the Science-Based Targets Initiative is something that was, it's a non-profit organization created at the times of the COP in Paris, created by the Carbon Disclosure Project, UN Global Compact, the World Resources Institute, and WWF. And you could call it sort of a global standard for setting climate targets. I think it's a bit maybe too summarized, but essentially that's what it is. If you want to be sure that your climate targets are in line with what is requested by the Paris Agreement, then science-based targets can prove or can approve your targets and say, yes, okay, what you do as a company should bring us on track with the 1.5 degree or 2 degree scenario. Now, why did we build something on top of this? Because as if you are a large company like Accenture, you can, or Danone, or Nestle, or IKEA, you can just as well go towards the Science-Based Targets Initiative and say, hey, this is my file, these are my plans, can you please approve this? But what we discovered is that quite a number of organizations, even if they have targets on a global level, are still looking for guidance in their own setting, in their own national setting, and especially smaller players that are just embarking on this journey don't really want immediately to step towards the Science-Based Targets Initiative. They want to know a bit more upfront, what's in it for me, what's the business case, how does it all work? So we sort of built a shell around this Science-Based Targets Initiative, a national shell, where organizations can come together, can exchange information, can get more familiar with the initiative before joining or before really taking a serious commitment and enter into a formal relationship with the Science-Based Targets Initiative. And the timeline here makes this quite clear. So when you want to join the Belgian Alliance for Climate Action, you sign a pledge, but this is just a pledge that says, okay, within the period of 1 year, I will move towards or I will make the formal commitment towards the Science Based Targets initiative. And during that year, we provide the signatories, the members, with information and inspiration, and we also, because the pledge has two options. If you already have science-based targets, like a number of large companies, large multinationals, they can also sign this, and when they sign it, they promise to support our Belgian Alliance with information, with help, and so that's how we create a community of both the newcomers and the experts. What do we do? Because it's more than just a pledge. We build a program of events, and we call them, you can see here the dark blue boxes, we call those anchor events. It doesn't really matter what they are all about, but these, what we call anchor events, illustrate the overall process on how do you get towards a science-based target. So it talks about carbon footprinting, how do you set your climate targets. These sessions are open to all of our members, not only the participants of the Belgian Alliance for Climate Action, but all of our members. But on top of those, we also have specialized in-depth workshops and what we call sector-specific roundtables. And these are closed sessions only for the members of the Belgian Alliance for Climate Action. They are a lot more specialized. They can deal, for example, with what footprinting tools are available. They can deal with greening your mobility fleet. And this is where the actual exchange of information and the community is being built. So two types of events: large chronological educational types and more specialized workshops and roundtables. We also create a true community. So we have a website, we have social media engagement, we have a special newsletter for this project only. We obviously have the Shift newsletter, but we have a specific newsletter, and we have a closed group on LinkedIn for our members. So we have basically this special branding for this project to create the community and the necessary visibility around this. These were a few slides, okay, what we do, but now I would also like to explain you a bit, okay, how did we build this idea and what have we learned in the meantime? So if you would like to duplicate this in your own country, I think this will be the most important part for you. It took us, I think, about a year to build this project. So it started on the left side, obviously, defining the vision and strategy. And that was initially, we had plenty of talks. Okay, how will we set the bar, the ambition level? Who should we involve? Only the newcomers, but how then do we deal with the experts? So I'm now moving to potential roles and benefits for our members. And once that was clear for us, okay, this is how we will do it. We will focus on two types of participants. We will build upon the solid basis of the Science-Based Targets initiative. Then we started thinking on what events will we organize. We also got involved with other national and international alliances. We are currently talking to a network, and this is a network supported by WWF. It's called Alliances for Climate Action, because we're not. This is not sort of a one-off. There are similar alliances in Mexico, in Vietnam, in South Africa, and we will probably become part of that network of networks as well. Once that was clear, we also built a website, worked on online visibility, bringing reliability and credibility. I'll say something about that in a moment. And we had our going live event actually at the beginning of this month on the 10th of October. So we are only live since a few weeks, but for us this was a big event, and it marked the first anniversary, so to say, of all our work. Right, so here below you see a bit of the branding and the website and our LinkedIn page. But what did we learn during this year? And I think this is, for me, one of the most important elements that I can share with you. First of all, it took us a really big effort to onboard a number of our members. We didn't want to launch this project with an empty stage, so to say. We could say, okay, this is the Belgian Alliance, who wants to join? But then it's a bit funny to be there with the project and have no backing, no one who is there behind you. And getting enough important and visible players onboarded was a big part of the work, because you have to prove that you are indeed bringing a serious initiative to the table, but you also have to sort of make sure that the members are convinced there is something in it for them. This part of the work was primarily done by the shift, and we have now about 57 signatories. If you want, you can have a look at our website. It's called the Belgian Alliance for Climate Action.org. You can see all the logos there. And I think I spoke to 90% of those members in person to convince them, explain them. Very interesting, but very time consuming. What we also took care of is, and I assume in each of your countries that will be the same. In Belgium, there's WWF, but there's also the Climate Coalition. We have Youth for Climate, we have Extinction Rebellion, all these players. And we didn't want to come all of a sudden out of the blue. So we reached out to them, we discussed with them to make sure our goals were clear to them. We are not doing something that is similar to them, but we have a good relation with them. This is our partner WWF took part of this job. And quite important, I must say, because one of the lessons we learned in the media campaign that I referred to at the beginning, Sign for My Future, there we got quite a bit of backlash from activist players, if I may call it like that. What we have really religiously tried to avoid with this project is making any political statement. This is a non-political project. This is just a coalition of companies, organizations. It will be mostly companies, but there's also a number of universities. This is a coalition of organizations that says, look, this is what we do, point. We're not asking anything. We're not asking anything from the political level. We don't blame anyone. We just bring a neutral tone of voice. And I think it's important to guard that point of view. And our aim is essentially to make sure that we bring this topic in the boardroom of a number of companies, organizations, and to normalize the climate debate in that respect. Climate should just be handled like any other risk topic and not be something that polarizes. So we do not start any discussion with our projects. It's a neutral statement. And the last thing is we discussed with a lot more members than the ones that signed up. And even if a number of those didn't join the Belgian Alliance for Climate Action, we weren't disappointed about that. I remember very well a talk I had with a big Belgian bank, and they said, look, Bart, very interested. We think this is a perfect solution. It's just too early for us. We have discussed at board level. We don't have the resources now, but this is on our radar, rest assured. So we think this is fine. Even this sort of discussion brought it to the level of the attention at where it should be, which is boardroom or executive level, and we're happy with that. Our aim is not to sign on everyone, but at least to give enough visibility to this topic. That was my part of the presentation. And I'll now leave the floor to Accenture, who takes part in this project from two different roles. And that is what Silke and Magali will explain.
Thank you, Bart. And maybe just because, and thank you already for the ones who are getting active in the chat. Maybe, Bart, I see we have a few academic actors. Can you maybe also explain, and because I know that's definitely in the network of the Shift, you have partnerships also with universities and with academic players. Did they play a role in the Belgian Alliance? And which role did they play? Maybe it's an interesting one for the audience.
Yeah. We talked to a number of universities, and we were very happy that, for example, University of Leuven signed up, and they will actually also take up a dual role in this. So University of Leuven, on the one hand, they signed a pledge and they said, look, okay, yes, with our own organization, we plan to move towards science-based targets. But we would also like to offer our knowledge in this context. And that's where it becomes very, very interesting. So they have this dual role in this. And that's why the bilateral discussions with all our members of this Belgian Alliance are so interesting. And that's why the community aspect of this Belgian Alliance is important. Because again, to be clear, the University of Leuven could just contact the Science-Based Targets Initiative on a bilateral basis and not be involved with us. But I think we do offer additional value by putting them in touch with other players who are struggling with challenges that they may be able to solve.
And there is another question in the chat. Silke has already answered part of it. Bart, how many members decided to follow the pre-program and then become a pledge member?
We have now, it's about 60 members that we have. Actually, we should have, I realize that now, shown some of the logos of the players that signed on. The nice thing is, because I emphasized that we didn't only want newcomers, but also organizations that already have science-based targets. We have a 50-50 ratio currently. So about 25-30 organizations already have science-based targets, and the other half is just embarking. And the other half is big players to very small nonprofits. Some very convinced nonprofits have joined up as well.
Okay, I see no more questions, but feel free to ask more questions if you have one. So Bart, to then bring the story from the perspective of Accenture. So I remember then, I think it was in April when we were in the whole COVID-19 crisis, and we were actually contacting all of our non-profit partners. So we are working together with different non-profit partners to achieve mainly our corporate citizenship objectives, and especially our objectives to close the skills gap. So in that sense, I contacted also the Shift and Bart to see which additional support we could give to cope with the COVID-19 situation. on an organizational level, but also on the program level. And then I think it was the moment, Bart, when you said, actually, this is already a dream that we are having for a long time, but we didn't get it started, and maybe that's the right timing. So actually, what Accenture is doing in each country, we provide the consulting services that we usually provide for our clients. We provide them also pro bono for our non-profit partners, if they are indeed aligned with our strategic objectives to close a skills gap, and also on this on these sustainability objectives. So in that sense, we were also interested in the project based on the collective approach. I think what we have learned also through the many years of doing these pro bono projects is that we can, and especially to tackle more complex societal challenges. Is it about climate? Is it about inequality? Is it about poverty? That's the solution is not always in a bilateral partnership. One company working with one nonprofit, and at a certain point, each company has his CSR projects. I really do believe that the future will be more and more in this multi-stakeholder approach, where you would say if we as a corporate partner would partner up with our corporate partners together with different nonprofits that all have actually part of the solution. And therefore also, and especially if it's about a science-based target, we need the academic actors as well. So I think this is an important key for success. So when Bart was asking, we would like to launch a climate alliance in Belgium, but we need to further look into how should it look like to set up the project management, to set up targets. I thought it was interesting, especially from this collective approach, and in a second phase from this acceleration, that together we can have this bigger impact, and especially then here in Belgium. So this is from the corporate citizenship perspective, but on the other hand, as you said, many of the members already have approved science-based targets. So for us, it was indeed the case. We have the approved science-based targets, but we also do realize that, okay, scope 1 and 2, it's mainly in our hands, and we are doing everything to improve our impact there. But for scope 3, it's not also, again, something you can do on your own, because you are dependent from your whole supply chain, from your supplier. So also there, through the shift, which is actually the largest sustainability network in Belgium, we knew that we would be able to connect with somehow also other actors that we are not naturally connecting with. And I think this is also the advantage of such a neutral platform, that instead of, I will say it differently, it can be a platform where even competitors, where different type of organizations that would normally not talk to each other, they would find this neutral table, this neutral platform to actually work together on a common goal that's, I think today more and more organizations have, especially in this transition towards this carbon neutral economy. So in that sense, we onboarded, and I think maybe you can switch to the next slide, and even to the next slide. We have been looking at this indeed from different aspects. So of course, Accenture, we are providing services towards our clients in many different industries, and more than 40 different industries. So actually, this type of platform is also a way to connect with our clients to see what can we do together? How can we, and what we are already doing with our clients, how can we also bring the sustainability agenda in this value approach? So it's also broadening our value proposition towards our clients, and to also integrate the value that we can bring on the agenda on sustainability, and definitely also on inclusion and diversity, and on the skills gap. As I'm always looking at sustainability from this, I would say, broader scope with the SDGs. So regarding specifically our carbon emissions, Silke, she is the specialist in the house, so she will explain a bit more in detail what we've done concretely, and actually also what we will need to do through this alliance to achieve this extra mile. But and I started with explaining this, but I think this remains for us the most important. We know that we can only get there if we work together with our people, with our partners, and also with our ecosystem partners, like our non-profit partners like The Shift. So this is really important for us to look at this from actually a multi-stakeholder perspective and to see how can we actually collaborate with others and with sometimes also unusual partners to be more ambitious on this climate agenda. So this would be an introduction from my side. I think Silke can give more concrete examples about our sustainability objectives and what we've done in Belux.
Thank you, Magali. So as already explained, we indeed have our science-based targets approved. It was the case in December 2018. And so we are committed to reducing Scope 1 and 2 emissions with 65% by 2025 from our 2016 baseline. So that's the story in the theory. We are supported to reduce Scope 2 emissions by our additional commitment to have 100% renewable electricity in all our offices in the Accenture world by 2023. And so recently, mid-October, in fact, Bart, you can go to the next slide. Mid-October, our global CEO, Julie Sweet, has even sharpened our sustainable ambitions. So we are set to achieve a net zero emissions by 2025, along with the move to zero waste, and also look at the water risk, because for Belgium, it's maybe a little bit less pressing, but in other regions in the world, drought, flooding, and scarcity of water can be an impact to the business. You can go to the next slide. Bart, thank you very much. So locally in Brussels, we moved to our new office last year, exactly October 2019. And we chose the Gare Maritime in Brussels, more specifically also because the landlord, Extensa, made it a really sustainable project. So it's an old railway station. It has been transformed into 10 blocks for tenants like we are. And so there is a geothermal energy for heating and cooling. We have solar panels. The gigantic roof captures the rainwater, and we use that rainwater to cool ceilings, to use it for the toilets in the offices, but also to water the plants that are in the Gare Maritime itself. The construction is made of wood, also one of the most sustainable building materials for the moment. So Extensa has kind of a holistic view, and they have also foreseen the waste management for all its tenants. So together with our neighbors, we are going to the zero waste ambition. And Extensa is also helping us to reduce logistics on to and from the site. So the idea is that together we try to have the least possible deliveries to the site, and the idea is to really work together to reduce this. So we have our global targets. We have a global procurement organization that makes sure that the really big building blocks are okay, but still we have to make it happen locally, and therefore we think it is really important to be part of the Belgian Alliance for Climate Action, because this way we will be able to meet like-minded companies and build further on our ecosystem. Because in the period 2017 to 2019, we already participated in the Green Deal circular purchasing, and this was really a tremendous way to get to know our suppliers and other ways of working at the offices. But I'm afraid I kind of skipped the next slide. So globally and locally, we are working on our supply chain, and the focus point is really on getting it responsible from an environmental and a human perspective. Thank you.
So, Sophie, I think it's your turn now.
Yes, thank you, Bart. Good afternoon again, everybody. So my name is Sophia Berg, I'm Deputy Director at IMS. And the reason why we are here today is actually since we also are working on this topic. SBT is not new to IMS and to Luxembourg. Actually, in 2019, at our annual sustainability forum, we had actually Alexander Fassan, who is global head of SBT at WWF, as one of our guest speakers. So we had already started to kind of introduce SBTs to the Luxembourg audience. Next slide, Bart, please. And in connection to the forum, we also actually had a 14-page dossier about SBT in our magazine, which we distribute to all our members and some other stakeholders. And in these 14 pages, we had a detailed interview with Mr. Fassan, and we had also 2 testimonials from 2 businesses which are very committed and active through or with SBT. Electrolux, the Swedish, Global International Electrolux group, and also the Paris headquartered, but also international finance bank, BGL, BNP Paribas, which also really shared their experiences with this approach. And what happened was that actually this is also a very good example of actually the active collaboration and cooperation within the network of CSR Europe. As I said from start, IMS Luxembourg, we are a kind of sister organization, as we could say, to the Shift. We do have interaction and contact with them, and it was actually through a discussion with actually our director and the Shift director that the project that the Shift had started to work on came up during the discussion. And since again SBT was not new to us, but we hadn't started anything specifically more than what just sharing some information to our members, we thought that maybe the time has also come up for us in Luxembourg to do something, to really to drive a concrete project the way the Shift does. So very honestly and in complete transparency with the Shift, we've had many calls and interactions with Bart and some colleagues from the Shift to discuss, to learn from them everything that actually Bart has shared with you. He shared with us, explaining how they have done it and how they are doing it today. So we started during summer to identify some of our members, which we knew from previous discussions and projects would be interested in such a topic and such a project. Directly after summer, in September, we had our first meeting, a webinar, of course, unfortunately, with representatives from all these organizations. We had a first presentation with actually the Shift, with Bart and the Shift director. We had as well a testimony from Lidl and how they have been working with science-based targets. This was really to give a more concrete insight on this topic to this selection of members. Then we had a second webinar in October to continue the discussion with this selection of members, at which actually we invited Alexander Fassan again to give the possibility to our members to hear more specifically, and if they had any question, to ask direct question to Mr. Fassin. And we are right now actually in the process of in this October webinar, what we did as well was we had an open discussion with this approximately 15 organizations to ask them, okay, now you have heard about specifically how the shift does it. So as Barn has explained to you now, with the pledge of the pledge, we had several scenarios, several alternatives, and we asked our participants in this October webinar to give us input and feedback on how they would like to do it. And now at IMS, we are working actually on the project description that we will submit first to this selected group of organizations. And once we have an agreement on this project, how we want to do it. Would we like to have at the shift a kind of a pledge of the pledge, or would we like to do it differently? We will then invite all our members to this project, which we hope we will be able to launch in December. So this is where we are. So just to end up, so the last slide from me, here is just a few keywords, because independently of the concrete format of the project, at the end of the day, what we would like to do is really, as the shift, to support our members along this journey of developing climate targets and getting them validated. Also, again, independently of the precise format, we will offer support, guidance. We will act as a moderator, as we always do in our project. We will animate working groups. We will have occasions of sharing knowledge, and we will also mix or invite actually experts to share their knowledge and have concrete workshops with our members to help them understand and get to know even better, and get to know and get to decide how they can really work concretely with SBT. This is it for myself. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Sophie. And when I was seeing this last slide, I was looking at the left-hand side, where you say raising awareness on and increasing knowledge about SBT. That's indeed exactly what we want to do with the Belgian Alliance as well. But we did want to go one step further, because you can only provide so much information and awareness, and that's why the Belgian Alliance, we have really put this pledge on top of that, which forces people towards a clear commitment. And it has surprised me that this really triggers a number of organizations to think seriously about it, because if they sign that pledge, it's not a free signature. It's quite a strong commitment. And one of the, I think, I can't claim we were the only ones that triggered this, but there is a large Belgian retailer who was considering science-based targets, had been looking at it, but we told them, look, the launch is that date. If you want to have your logo on the side, you have to decide, point. And it keeps the participants focused. We are not offering an information session. We're asking them for a clear commitment. And that's what we think is important, because you can continue to talk about science-based targets and then hope something or someone will decide next year. What we try to do is really get people across that line and get them to commit.
Absolutely. If I may comment on your point, absolutely, I fully agree and understand this way of doing in Belgium with the shift. This is exactly what we've been discussing with this first selection of members in Luxembourg. We also absolutely still think that a commitment is needed to really get started with something. But nevertheless, what we are discussing is that you still can have a commitment, but without upfront public communications. I think this is where in Luxembourg we are still, weighing the pros and cons, and that commitment still we could have internally with our members. But that maybe it's still in the open, but maybe we won't go all the way as you have done now, with really from start an official public communication about which organizations have committed to commit. We may in Luxembourg kind of have a first step, which I would say would be more, under the radar, not that much public communications at first, to really give the possibility to our members to feel actually more comfortable with what is SBT and what does it mean for me, and how can I, with my organization, work with that before they do such a public commitment. Because yes, of course, when you really commit to SBT, there is really this commitment letter, and then it's definitely public. Well, at least you have your organization on the SBT website, and there is some public communication steps and so on. This is the level we are still discussing in Luxembourg.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think also the important switch that we see in this type of alliances is that it's really core business. We are talking core business. So in that sense, indeed, it's not about marketing, providing a logo for a certain website. And I think this is maybe also a shift that we see, or transition that we see at the same time happening with CSR also. It's not anymore about having our signature somewhere and our logo somewhere. It's about really a change that is not easy, and for which we are also showing our showing publicly then also, and maybe that's then also the difficulty, Sophie, that you're mentioning also. We also show our weaknesses publicly. I think we can also share that it's not.
Absolutely, you're perfectly right. I think this is one of the reasons why it may be challenging for some to really commit right away, because exactly as you said very correctly, it's definitely about the business itself, the business models, all the supply chain. So it's really not a 1 second project to solve in 1 minute. So that's why some organizations at least may feel that they really want first to really understand better what it means for them, and how they can or not work.
But this makes it interesting, because it's indeed, it doesn't starts and stops with a signature. It's about an engagement to go beyond what you can more easily do. It's easier for us to switch to solar panels, for instance, because we can do it ourselves. We can make the decision ourselves. We can install solar panels. So it's a more complex. Some topics are much more complex, and therefore you need to sit together with others to think about potential solutions, new innovations on the market. And one might have tested one thing, another one something else, and it's to see together how can we then also push a kind of a solution in the market also. And this for me is also a way of reinventing a CSR platform, where actually you are making changes in the core business. You are making changes in the business model and the supply chain, so touching more and more the core of the business. And if you have already the members, I think the members that are part of the Belgian Alliance, somehow they say, okay, we are ready. And I remember I joined one of the workshops. Everyone is there and saying we are ready to share. We are ready to say this is our weak point, but to also see how can we tackle this together. And I think this is already a big step forward for these type of networks.
Absolutely, you're perfectly right, and this is also what is so interesting for our kind of organization, like the Shift and like IMS, since really our business, if I may use this word for us, it is really this animation, this exchange, this collaborative process, and we try in actually all of our projects as much as possible to really actually put people together. Of course, right now it's even more challenging with all these online formats, but anyway, we still try. Because we are perfectly aware that within our networks, there are actually organizations which know and do already more than others, and who can learn. And as actually Bart showed in his presentation, which is of course very interesting in the project driven by the Shift as well, is this proposition to really open the project to both organizations which already have actually signed and already know relatively more than others, and other organizations which do not know at all, because sometimes you don't need to look for completely external, faraway experts. Sometimes you do have in your own networks actually experts, and then they can act as, well, you name it as you wish, coach, mentor. But I think also this is very interesting and fits very well with how we try, and we usually really try to work with our members in this collaborative and partnership approach. So it's good examples.
Okay, I'm looking at the chat window, which is still frighteningly silent. It may have something to do with the Friday evening, I suppose. We're nearing the end of the CSR Europe conference as well. Is there, are there any other questions or things you would like to know? Please put these in the chat window. We still have, how many people were present? About 30. I still saw some reactions from very few people only. So
one last question, or do we start the weekend?
I have the impression the weekend is nearing. If that's it, I can only hope our talk was clear. I can only wish you a very good weekend. Thanks for those of you that did interact. Thanks to all the other speakers, obviously. And I think we now have to count on our technical support lady who will close the session. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you very much. And don't hesitate to contact us after the webinar, of course, as well, if any questions or comments, anything you would like to share with us, of course, we are available. Thank you.
And a good weekend to all of you.
And
enjoy the weekend.